The government has reviewed the paper prepared by Messrs. Mayer and Burcher, whom I will refer to as the commentators. With the advice of its advisors, the government has prepared a point-by-point response to the items raised by the commentators. This is available on the government portal. I would like to note that I personally have responded to written concerns by these two gentlemen, as well as extended an invitation to the Ministry of Finance to provide further information. They have chosen instead to make public pronouncements on the project that totally ignore information already provided to them by the government. The government has retained several independent third-party advisors in order to help assess the airport project. Each of them world-class with expertise in different disciplines and experience, having worked on similar projects globally. This list of advisors includes KPMG, Canada and Bermuda, Bennett Jones, CIBC Infrastructure and Project Finance Team, Lee Fisher, HNTB, and independent value for money consultant, Steer, Davies, and Gleave. Their expertise and experience can be found in our detailed response. The commentators, however, have no such experience or expertise. The tenor of their entire commentary starts from a position of not, as opposed to how can we. The commentary and analysis is reverse engineered to lead to a predetermined conclusion. They propose no alternative plan, only criticism. The government, on the other hand, has a duty to think positively, provide solutions, and in this case, the G2G P3 solution ticks all the boxes in terms of the strategic objectives of the government and value for money. The independent value for money report by Steer, Davies, and Gleave confirms this. The paper prepared by the commentators is replete with errors and presents a flawed analysis of the project. I cannot go through all of them here, as time does not permit, but I invite members of the public to read our response that identifies each one. I would, however, like to clarify 3 points. Number one, fact. The quote-unquote missing 27 million the commentators refer to is based on a false premise and is not the standard way project finance professionals evaluate alternative project options. Therefore, there is no missing 27 million. 2. Fact. The minimum regulated revenue guarantee does not guarantee ACON's profits. The guarantee will only be triggered if traffic for a particular year falls below the worst case scenario threshold, and in that event, the government will make up the revenue shortfall and place that money into a trust account, which can only be used to support lenders. It is specifically forbidden for that money to be used to support ACON or other equity investors in Bermuda Skyport Corporation Limited. 3. Fact. Millions of government revenue will not be shipped out to Canada. That money will go to paying interest, repaying debt, airport operations, and maintenance of our airport. Equity investors' profit will be capped, above which a 50-50 revenue sharing arrangement with government will kick in, so that your government will share in the success of this enterprise. Overall, it is evident to the numerous errors and incorrect assumptions made by the commentators that they lack the knowledge and experience in several areas, and their conclusions are not credible. The government retains several third-party advisors with world-class global experience, such that these types of errors would not be made and that the correct conclusions would be reached. Again, I encourage everyone to visit the Bermuda government portal to get the facts about the airport redevelopment project. That is the end of my prepared remarks. I'll be happy to endeavor to answer questions. Jonathan?
So, what's the status of the two?
You need a mic.
I'm holding the microphone. Okay, well, thanks. So, what's the status of the two pieces of legislation that have been stalled that is still going ahead?
Yes.
Do they have to go ahead before the end of March of next year?
The airport development agreement expires, I think, in March, but we will be debating that, those two bills when Parliament resumes.
Any indication of when?
When Parliament resumes.
As in the first day of Parliament?
Yes.
Is there any plan to address the protest element, to meet with them or resolve that aspect of it?
We're planning a strategy over Christmas, but we will continue to reach out to the Bermudian public and further inform the public of aspects of this project. I think many people still feel they don't have enough information. I think the truth is that there's been information overload, and people are having trouble actually combing through all the data to come up with something that means something to them. So we are going to assist them in that regard.
Minister, thank you. I think from what I understand from the people you're calling the commentators, is that there is an impact on the balance sheet. Can you tell us, in your estimation, in the first year of this project, what that number will be?
I think all the information is available right now, and I think I would invite you to look at the detailed answer to that question. The numbers are in there, and you'll see those numbers.
But is it correct that all the revenues are going to departure tax and the normal airport operations revenue from concessions and rent, that is going to be going to flow into Project Co, is that correct?
The way Project Co will finance the construction and the repayment of the debt for the airport is from the revenues that are attributable to the airport. And that would be revenues including departure taxes, landing fees, etc.
And that is $37 million in the first year.
37 million?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what that number is, but I think it's in that region. But one of the fatal flaws of the commentators' analysis is that it only looks at revenues without expenses, and nobody in business can ever do that, or else they'd be out of business. So you have to look at revenues and expenses, current expenses and capital expenses.
Right. Well, I mean, the budget book, the estimate says 2016, 2017, that figure, the total revenue is $37 million.
Do I have to repeat myself? You cannot just look at revenues, okay?
But that, I mean, I just want to make sure we're on the same page here.
Well, I'm trying to get you on the right page. Okay. The right page is that you have to look at current revenues, you have to look at current expenditures, and you have to look at capital expenditures.
Right.
That's the right page.
So the current expenditure is about $10 million that they will be paying.
That's not correct. I'm not going to hear. What I'm trying to avoid is to throw out a whole lot of numbers, particularly without looking at my text. But I do know the right numbers are in the text that will be made available to you, and I invite you to look at them.
Yeah. Just for clarity, though.
For clarity, I think you should look at the numbers.
No, well, can you just clarify for all of us? The government will be paying some of the expenses, including the Quango operating costs, and Project Co will be paying the actual airport operating costs, correct?
The so-called retained services
Yeah.
that are part of the contributions of the government to Quango, to Project Co, are all of them, with the exception of the amount that is being paid to start up the Quango itself. All of those are expenses that government already pays. That's another one of the fatal flaws of the commentators. They're adding on costs that government already pays. These retained services are services government already provides, government already pays for it. The electricity supply, government already pays for that because we pay for electricity down there already. All of those things are matters, are items that government already pays for. So you cannot take those numbers and add them on to the cost and say that these are additional expenses.
Right.
That's
When
part
it's
of the
less-
assumption that I say are incorrect.
But there's less revenue to pay for that.
We're not talking about revenue. You're confusing revenue and expenditures.
Well, you can't spend it if you don't have it coming in, Minister.
Say that again?
To me, it's quite simple. You know, there's $37 million the first year, $19 million departure tax, and $18 million in airport revenue. Right? These are your budget estimates. That's $37 million. And there's about 8.8 and, another 4 or 5 million that the government is going to continue paying.
That the money that the government continues to pay will not be extra expenditures for the government. That's what I just said, because we're already paying for those.
Yeah, I understand that.
So you cannot add those on
You
to
don't
the cost of
accept
the...
that there's less revenue coming in next
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't
What
say
is- what is it-
what I said to you. If you will listen to what I'm saying to you, perhaps you won't keep asking the same question over and over again. Okay? What I'm saying to you is that when you consider this matter, you have to consider the revenues and the expenses, both current, plus the capital costs. You cannot do an analysis, which is what I have seen from the commentators, where you only look at revenues and some expenses, because they haven't taken all the expenses, and ignore capital expenditures. This place is falling down. It needs capital expenditures. They are unavoidable. So you cannot take half of the equation and make a pronouncement on it. That's the problem. You got it now?
Yeah, does anybody else have a question?
What's your response to the report from Craig saying that the airport project is understated by 810 million?
That's not correct, and you'll see the answers to that in the paper that I've given you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Anybody else?
The consultant's report talks about some limitations on the government's analysis,
Yes.
and one of the big ones is, or the first one, is the traffic growth forecasts.
Yes.
Does that concern you at all that those numbers may not be met? I know it's, from your point of view, it's quite conservative, but they flagged it up as a possible limitation.
Well, I think there's a couple of things to say about that. First of all, the forecasts have been developed by the British firm Mott MacDonald, a very large British engineering capital projects firm. They do a lot of other work in Bermuda. They are expert at doing this. They've taken a lot of different factors into account, and their forecasts have been peer-reviewed by another set of consultants, Lee Fisher, who do work for us at the airport. So the forecasts have been done by experts, and they've been peer-reviewed by experts and found to be acceptable. For any investment, I don't care what the investment is. As somebody who's been in the investment business for half a lifetime, any and every investment depends on some sort of future cash flow. And seeing that nobody can 100% predict the future, then there will be an aspect of uncertainty. And that is why, because the forecast is so conservative that we have confidence in it. The forecast average over 30 years calls for traffic growth of 0.75% per year. That is extraordinarily conservative. Therefore, we are confident that if this economic model works with a growth rate that conservative, I think we're in pretty good shape.
And the other one, on the comparison between the design build option and the current proposal, your analysts were not comparing the same thing, the same projects. What's your response to that? I mean, it's been raised before, not
Right. Well, I think if you look, I don't have the report in front of me, but there's another line in there that says, even if you assume that the design build was done for the same price that we are getting it done for, the G2G project would still be superior. It did say that, and it's obvious for anybody to see. The design build option would still require the Bermuda government to borrow all this money and assume the interest rate and credit risk, and it would not have the performance guarantees of the government of Canada. So even if the design build option were the exact same price that Aecon was doing it at, it still would not measure up to what we're doing. And that is also in that report by Steer, Davies, and Gleave.
All right, I'm done.
Thank you. It does interest of time anyway. Thank you.
If that's not all, thank you very much, and Merry Christmas to you all. Thank you.